Hello everyone, and welcome to the second and final day of the Finale Fireworks Online Pyrotechnology Conference. For those of you who weren't able to join us yesterday, my name is Drew Espenshade, and it's my privilege to be here today hosting this event with my colleagues Will Harvey and Dustin Leary. We also have our friend Dirk Enders, fireworks expert and Finale 3D consultant, joining us from Germany. Yesterday, before we jumped into the first session, I did a brief overview of the Zoom interface and the schedule, and I'll be doing that again today just for anyone who wasn't able to attend yesterday, and also talk about the events coming up. Also made a couple of special announcements, which I'll give a brief overview of those as well. And even if you saw those announcements yesterday, stay tuned because there are a couple changes to the schedule and an addition for our PTC promotion. So with that, let's jump right in. All right, first a quick overview of the Zoom interface here. We did this yesterday, but I want to go through for those folks who are joining us for the first time and didn't get a chance to see this yesterday. When I shared my screen, it's possible that on your end you saw the Zoom window fill your entire screen. If you need to restore it to a smaller size at any point, you can do that from the view options. It's number 1 here on the top of your screen. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my spotlight. So you can see my mouse a little bit better. If you want to restore, bring back the full screen mode, you can do that from the enter full screen number 2 here in the upper right hand corner. I do want to mention, thanks to some feedback from some attendees yesterday, that if you see, right now you're probably seeing my video on your screen. It's usually by default in the upper right hand corner. If that's covering an area of the screen that you need to see at any point during the day, you should be able to grab onto that and drag it out of the way. There's no way I can kind of close that from my end. You can move it out of the way so it's not covering a part of the Finale interface or the slide deck that we're focusing on at that point. Next, we have the interaction controls at the bottom center of the screen. The chat is not available today because of the size and the number of attendees in the conference. We don't plan to use the raise your hand feature either, but feel free to reach out to us, as many of you already are in the Q&A. So thank you for saying hi, and hello to everyone around the world. If you need to leave at any point, although we hope you don't want to leave, but if you need to leave, feel free to do so by using that button in the lower right hand corner. And I do want to mention that if you need to leave and you want to return, that's fine. At no point during the conference today will it be locked, so you'll be able to come back as needed. I also want to mention that if you minimize the Zoom interface, it often becomes a small window somewhere on your screen, and you can bring that back by hitting the enlarge minimize video button, which is in the lower right hand corner of that little minimized screen. So there's that. Taking a look at the schedule, again, a couple adjustments. Yesterday we had 4 great sessions, back-to-back, 4 hours, 1 hour per session, and we're going to do that again today. Starting the first session will be on productivity features, which will be starting in just a few moments. Next, we'll have creating effects, so that'll be an hour session, and then we'll have our changes down here involve the last 2 sessions of the day, addressing racking custom reports and wrap up. And I also want to mention that these sessions may not both each be exactly an hour. They might kind of, the gap or the intermission between them might be adjusted slightly. So be sure to stay through both sessions to catch everything and all that content. I also want to mention, as I did yesterday, we're hoping to be back doing an in-person PTC next year in the Frankfurt area, and that date would be the 12th of April, 2021, tentatively, hoping that the health crisis is over, and that will coincide with the Pro Light and Sound event that takes place there in Frankfurt, near Frankfurt, Germany. So with that, let's go on to talking about the special announcements. Yesterday I announced the Finale 3D choreography contest. I'll go ahead and mention that again a little bit today. I'm going to go ahead and go through it pretty quickly so we can get into that for session 1 content, which is those productivity features. So we will have a contest here coming up pretty soon. We hope all of you will join us. It begins on the 15th of June, and submissions are due July 15th. Those will be video submissions. It's as a virtual contest. It's open to all Finale 3D hobbyist and pro users. We're anticipating the show's requirement being 5 to 6 minutes with a minimum of 2 songs. You'll have a choice of product with some type of budget, some type of virtual budget. The complete rules will be posted on Facebook, so be sure to join to follow Finale 3D on Finale Fireworks on Facebook, or join the Finale 3D users group. This is a big one here. The grand prize for the pro winner will be $1,000. That's a cash prize with smaller cash prizes for second and third. For the hobbyist grand prize, you'll get $500 with smaller prizes for second and third. So really looking forward to that, and I can't wait to see the amazing shows that all of you submit. Moving right along, I announced a promotion yesterday for PTC. We're really excited about doing this. We're doing something unprecedented that we have not done before. We're offering a 10% lifetime discount on all license types for Finale 3D, which includes the hobbyist, extra machine licenses, and additional licenses, in addition to those primary licenses that we've occasionally discounted previously. So this is a unique opportunity, especially if you're looking at getting, whether you're getting pro or hobbyist, you have the opportunity to get a discount. To get the discount, you can go to finale3d.com, and on the checkout page, when you're purchasing licenses, use the discount code PTC2020. The code will be valid now through June 1st, which is next Monday, so it's important quickly to take advantage of that discount. Next, we're offering customized and personalized one-on-one training. This is something that we do with users anyway, but we want to go above and beyond here and continue to offer that on a personalized basis for new users as well as existing users, training at any level that you need it. Now, something new for today, as I mentioned, we're offering, our friends at Finale Inventory have put forward a promotion of their own to help Finale 3D customers, and that is a three free months of Finale Inventory with an annual license. So what that means is you purchase an annual license for Finale Inventory, which is a 12-month license, and you get an additional quarter or additional 3 months completely for free. So if you're interested in Finale Inventory based on what you saw yesterday, visit finaleinventory.com. There's a button there. You can schedule a demo and also reach out to the Finale Inventory team, and they are specialists. They will get you set up. Now, before we jump in, I just want to mention for anyone who wasn't able to join yesterday, we're giving away a free t-shirt as a gift to everyone attending PTC today and yesterday as a thank you. And we're going to be sending out this commemorative t-shirt after the event. The t-shirt will have a logo on the front like the one you see here, click, drag, boom. On the back, we'll have the PTC logo with signatures of all attendees. And here's how we're going to accomplish that. Take out a sheet of paper, sign your name, take a photo of it with your phone, and email that to will@finale3d.com. So if you haven't done this yet, do it, because we're going to lock this in pretty soon here. I'm going to go ahead and use all the submissions we get and all the signatures that we receive to make those shirts. In that email that you send, be sure to include the picture of your signature, obviously, as well as your mailing address, check for any typos, and then your t-shirt size. So we definitely want to get you a shirt. No matter where you are in the world, we're going to do our best to make that happen, but please make sure to do this very soon. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first session, and that will be on productivity features. All right, here we go. So here's our session one productivity features outline. I'm going to do just a quick outline of the particular things that I'm going to cover in this session, and then we'll jump into the Finale 3D interface where we'll spend the remainder of the session. So starting out, we're going to look at custom window presets and layouts, as well as the advanced search. Then we'll take a look at position groups and camera presets in Finale 3D. Then we'll look at some kind of advanced options for configuring firing positions. If you joined us for the introduction session yesterday, we're going to cover a little bit of that, but we're going to quickly move on to some things that we weren't able to cover in the introduction session. We're going to look at inserting effects 4 different ways. We're going to look at building some sequences and also different ways of selecting effects in the interface to get the most productivity out of Finale 3D. We're going to look at some timeline features. We're going to look at, finally, we're going to look at data import and export and some of the copy and paste functionality, which is a really powerful benefit of Finale 3D. So with that said, let's go ahead and switch over to Finale 3D and we'll get started. All right, so again, I just want to mention that video. You're probably seeing me in the upper right-hand corner of your screen unless you've already moved that video. You can go ahead and drag that out of the way depending on what part of the software I'm focused on, but obviously if it's in the upper right-hand corner, it might be in your way just a little bit. So first, I want to mention that productivity really means working efficiently to get the design done in the most expeditious manner possible. Also, the productivity features are designed to make it extremely easy and as quick as possible and fun to design a show. So oftentimes there's multiple ways to do something in Finale 3D, and that's to make it as quick and easy as possible and also, of course, fun to design. So first, let's take a look at some window presets. So when we launch Finale, we get the default window preset, which has our 3 windows here. We can go ahead and change that from a selection of default presets by going to the window menu. Here you can see we have a whole list of presets. I want to focus on 3 specifically. Preset 0 with the effects on top and the script at the right. This is kind of like a hybrid between our older software. If you used our older software, Finale Business, it's a close hybrid. You're going to see something even closer in just a second. But this is a good way to keep track of your script as well as the 3D, and then have the effects on top if this is a layout that you like. We also have some of the layouts that are really close to Finale Business, which are effects above design and script above design. I'll go ahead and show you those. So here you can see this. If you're familiar with Finale Business or older software, this really closely mirrors it. So you have a really good panoramic view to design your show. Someone says I'm speaking too fast. So I will take that into consideration. I'll try to slow down a little bit for those who English isn't their first language. But I do want to cover a lot in this session, so I will try to be as concise as possible. So with that, I want to mention one other window layout, which is the script above design. And this gives you, it's a similar layout, but you get the script above the 3D view so that you have the ability to work on the script there. So I also want to mention that there are keyboard shortcuts for each of the layouts. You can see here Shift 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. I'll go ahead and hit Shift 2. You can see I did that on my keyboard and it snapped us right back to that default layout. That's important sometimes because you might maximize a window or you might move a window out of place. Here you can see I have the presentation behind, and hitting Shift 2 or Shift 9 or Shift 0 or Shift 1 or anything, you can bring the windows right back to the orientation that you prefer. And you can do that just by memorizing or looking at the keyboard shortcuts that you have here. So that's the window presets. Now let's look at some of the features in the effect window. So the first thing I want to note is the search box and the filters. We have 3 default layouts for the effects window. The first is the editing layout. You can see when I click that, you get different drop-down filters, lists of filters here at the top. And you get different columns displayed, and the columns displayed are specifically keeping what someone editing effects might need while they're doing the editing. So you can see when I go to scripting, for example, the columns change. You have less of those specific details for working on the duration or height of effects, but you have the columns you need typically for doing some basic scripting. We also have a layout for racking, and most importantly, you can create your own layouts here. And what I want to demonstrate is doing just that. So first we're going to add a filter to the top. Everything that you input here in terms of everything you add in terms of filters and the arrangement of the columns in order can be incorporated into the layout. So let's go ahead and make a custom layout. All right, so the first thing I want to do is go to the blue gear menu, and I'm going to unhide a filter. And I want to go ahead and unhide the category filter. I'm going to add that. So you see that appeared at the top. So now you can see choose from categories that are represented in the generic effects collection. So next, what I'd like to do is go ahead and modify these columns slightly. So this is really a basic scripting template, but what I'd like to do is make a scripting template that's designed for scripting from quotas. So let's take a look at that. And in actuality, I want to start with the scripting, build off the scripting template. I think we're looking at the racking template, so I'm going to go ahead and switch that out. So go ahead and repeat that process here really quickly. Add a category filter. All right, perfect. And I've got this snapped back in, and we'll go ahead and add in the quota column, which we'll demonstrate a little bit of using later. And then we'll go ahead and bring in another column, which is the remaining quota column. You can see that popped in over here at the right. So now let's make some adjustments. First thing I want to do is move the quota column to the left. So I'll just right click on the header, move that to the left. I'm going to go over here to the remaining quota column. I'm going to keep moving that to the left by right clicking and moving that to the left until I get it all the way over to where I would like to have it. A couple more here. All right, so now I have the remaining quota column, which you can see there, and I have the quota column. And what I don't need for in this example is the available column, so I can go ahead and hide this column. So now I have used, quota, and remaining quota. So let's say this is the template that I'd like to have. So let's say I'd like to go ahead and save this template. this blueprint as a new layout. So I can do the little puzzle piece icon here with the green plus on it that allows us to save. This allows me also to switch. I can do a save, which would overwrite an existing template, or I can save as new. So I'll just do this today, and I'll call it example. And here you'll see, now we added an additional icon. So now I can easily switch between the built-in layouts and the example layout here, which is the one we'll use today. So I'll come back to this in a little bit when we work on adding some effects and working with the quotas. So now I've saved that custom blueprint, and now what I'd like to do is talk about the advanced search a little bit. So yesterday I did a demonstration where I demonstrated the incremental search by typing the word red, for example. This is a full text search that will work anywhere in the script. It will search anywhere, full text search in any of the fields present in the effects window, even those fields that are hidden at the moment. But let's go ahead and demonstrate a couple more really kind of underlying things that you can do with the search, advanced search feature. So if I put the 2 vertical bars in here, this is the key on your keyboard above the enter key, that signifies or. So I can do red and then basically the command for or, and then blue. So now we're not just searching for red, but we're searching for things that are red or blue. So that can be kind of handy if you're trying to find 2 different search terms, and but the search terms don't need to include both words. So that's kind of an advanced search function. Another one is searching for something like, let's say size, and then we have a function for does not equal. So you could do size does not equal 2 inch. And you can see as soon as I did that, as soon as I typed that 2, there's all your 2-inch devices there. And then when I type 2 in, it immediately disappears. So we can eliminate things that are not equal to a specific value by typing that. So I'm typing in the header name, size, and then does not equal 2 inch. Contrary to that, you could type size equals 2 inch, and there you can see we only have the 2-inch items. Now, you can achieve something similar from the drop-down list here, size 2 inch, and you could even select all of them and leave 2 inch off to achieve that. But sometimes it can be handy to do an advanced search and just type it directly into there. So I also want to demonstrate searching with a couple different terms and the distinction. If you search for blue, we already demonstrated that. Willow, you get, so now you get everything that has the words blue and willow, as opposed to, let's go back to our other example, blue or willow, right? And then we will go ahead and look for this exact phrase. So if I put quotes around this, now you will see we have 2 devices that come up because these particular devices have both the words blue and willow together consecutively. So there you have blue willow. This one does not have it in the description, but presumably it's in another column that isn't visible at the moment, such as the BDL. One other very cool feature that can save you time, I know I demonstrated a lot of that was typing into the box, but there's another cool feature where you can do, you can right click on a value. I'll demonstrate that now. So looking at a description, you can right click and do filter to this value. So for example, I've right clicked on pink chrysanthemum and I'm going to do filter to this value. So now I have, instead of typing pink chrysanthemum into the search box, I'm now seeing all my pink chrysanthemums, and I can bring them up across a different range of sizes. So anything that includes description, pink chrysanthemum comes up. So we can do something similar for, go ahead and clear the search box. We can do the same thing, for example, for size. So filter to this value, size 2 inch. So that's a little bit of the advanced search functionality that we have, kind of going beyond what we looked at yesterday in the introduction session. Once you get comfortable with it, you can really do all sorts of things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I do want to mention there's questions coming in about a cheat sheet for this. You can visit finale3d.com, go to the software documentation, and there is an article that describes how to use the advanced search functionality. So you always have that available to you as a resource. Okay, let's jump down into the 3D window here, also known as the design window, and take a look at a couple things. The first I want to mention is the camera presets. I talked about these a little bit yesterday, but I only focused on the default built-in presets. So what I'd like to demonstrate today is how to make a custom camera preset. So we'll go ahead and hit front and bring us back, and we'll go ahead and orbit here. I'm holding the control key to orbit, maybe come out back a little bit here, zooming out using my mouse wheel, And then let's say, for example, that we'd like to watch or design the show from this particular angle. So you can just hit the green plus icon, and then we have a new preset. And you can give that preset a name by clicking on it. So I'll use the term example again. Here, go ahead and rename so you get that. Now you can have quite a number of those here, so I could obviously move around and then create another one. And there you have preset 2. Go ahead and click on the label to do a rename. This is also how you would be able to delete it. So example 2. So there you have 2. Now, position groups. We can go ahead and do groups of positions as well. The way that you add one of the ways that you add fireworks to a position is by selecting the position. That's the most common thing to do. So it's often handy, instead of having to manually select the positions when you're designing a show, to be able to select them as a group automatically as needed. So you can make a position group, a custom position group shortcut over here on the left-hand side of your screen. So you can do that by, I'm holding the Shift key on my keyboard, and I'm selecting multiple positions. I've selected 1, 5, and 9, and then I'll just go ahead and hit the green plus icon. So there you can see I now have created a custom position group that selects those 3. So I'll give you an example here. I'll go ahead and click off to clear that out, and then click that icon, and it selects all 3 positions. So we can select all positions. That one's kind of built in, and then you can select just those 3 positions. And you can create more of those. For example, if I wanted to have position 3 and position 7, there we go. So now it's really easy to jump between those. So in terms of productivity, when you're designing a show, being able to choose those groups of positions that you use regularly instead of having to click on each one, that can really, really speed that process up. So let's look at doing some configuring of firing positions. So first and foremost, we want to go ahead and click the gold lock down here in the lower right-hand corner. Without doing that, we can't maneuver the firing positions by dragging. So we'll go ahead and unlock that. Yesterday, I demonstrated in the introduction adding a firing position, which we did by doing add and then 1 position, which is the keyboard shortcut Control-L. It's a great way to add a firing position, but it can be even more handy to do multiple firing positions. So let's say, for example, I want to add several firing positions. I can do Control-Shift-L, and I can specify the number of positions. Let's say I'll add 12 positions, and there they are. I can drag those around just by clicking on them. We'll go ahead and just move them in the back. So now I have those 12 positions. Let's do something a bit more interesting than putting them in a line. So with them selected, I'll go to Positions, and I'll go to Arrange into a Pattern, and then I'll do Circle. So now we can enter a value, a diameter for the circle. Meters is the default. So if I enter 25, we'll get, without any units, we'll get meters. If I put an apostrophe to represent feet or type feet, then I'll get feet. But we'll just go with meters. I'll leave that just like that. And there you go. So now you've got a circle of positions, and you can very easily script into those positions. They're arranged in order by their position name, with all the arrows pointing toward the center. So that's how you would make a custom pattern of positions. I can demonstrate another one here. If we go to Positions, Arrange in a Pattern. For example, we could do a square. We'll do this. We'll make it a little bigger. We'll go with 50. And just default to meters. So there we go. So that's a great way to make a pattern of positions and do that very quickly, as opposed to dragging them around individually. Another cool feature I want to mention that's definitely a productivity feature of working with positions is the ability to clone a position by holding the Control key and then clicking on the position. So right now I'm holding the Control key on my keyboard. I'll click on position 1, and then I will drag that position back. So I can do that here. I can also do that with a group of positions at the same time. So here I've selected 7 positions. I'll hold Control, bring these back. So just like that, you can very easily clone positions. Makes it really easy to do that. So just really productive ways to get more firing positions into your show using those features. I'll go ahead and delete these positions. I want to demonstrate some rotation options. So let us say, for example, that your show, you need to rotate the line of firing positions because the show will be on a different heading than it's currently on. So the best way to do that is to select those positions, and then you can go to the Positions menu, Angles, and all of the options are here in the menu. Rotate around a position's up vector or heading. Pitch would be forward and back, and roll would be to the left and right. In this example, we're going to rotate the heading. So I'll go ahead and select that. And you can see that we have, let me go back to do that again. Once you click on the grass, that goes away, so I need to be careful there. You can see that kind of compass that appears around that shows that position's heading. Now, to rotate all the positions that are selected, we simply click on the red arrow, and then we can rotate those positions just like that. And you can see the arrows on the tops of the positions are rotating around. So if you want to do some really fine adjustments, you can do that by bringing your mouse out further. If you want to do coarse adjustments, you bring the mouse in closer to the center there. So I'll just go ahead and spin those around maybe 25 degrees and then release them just like that. So now they're pointing over here. Another cool feature is the ability to rotate the positions. As you can see, each position has an arrow on the top. You may want to rotate that position for a variety of reasons. The main reason that you rotate a position is because you want the perspective of the direction, left and right tilt direction of the fireworks that are launched off that position to be represented in a different angle. They're always going to be perpendicular to the direction the arrow is pointing. The arrow is intended to point toward a crowd. But let's say that you were wanted to have all these positions pointing at a central point. You can right-click on the grass. I'll select these positions. I'll right-click on the grass area, and then I can say aim position at this point. Now you can see, oh, I'm sorry, that was the wrong command. I'll do aim position at this point. And there you can see, if we zoom in, that now we have the arrows all pointed at the location on the ground where I had clicked. All right, so another option that we can do with the right-clicking is right-clicking on the grass and choosing aim positions at parallel at this point. And what this is going to do, as opposed to bringing them in all to a single point, this will aim them, in parallel at that point. So I'll do demonstration is the best way to demonstrate that here. So here you can see they're all back to being in parallel. Now, if you'd like them to be aimed in parallel but not directly perpendicular to the audience, you can come to a different spot over here, aim positions in parallel at this point. So here you can see now they're still in a line, but the arrows on the tops of the positions are no longer pointing perpendicular to the direction of the positions. And this can be a handy tool depending on the shoot site and the environment that you're working in. A lot of great ways to work with firing positions. So all of those options are up here in the menus, but many of them also exist on the by right-clicking in the grass area. I want to demonstrate one more, which I actually demonstrated earlier by accident, which is to add a position at this point. So if you know exactly where you'd like a position or close to, you can simply right-click on the grass and do add position at this point, just like that. So there you have it. So let's go back and take a look at some more things that you can do with positions, controlling the position properties. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click, select all the positions, right-click and do Edit Position Properties, and then this brings up a variety of things that can be set for the position. So for example, the diameter of all the positions by default is 3 meters. We could change those here by typing 1 meter. I'll go ahead and make the positions a bit smaller. And then we would not want to adjust the coordinates here except for maybe up, because if I put in an X and Y coordinate, which currently shows as undefined, all those positions are going to snap to the same spot. So I definitely don't want to do that. Same with the heading. I'm going to leave that alone. But what I do want to demonstrate here is adjusting the start module. One of the questions we get often is, if I'm using the Cobra firing system, or any firing system for that matter, how do I start my module address on a module other than 00? And one of the ways to do that is by entering your start module here as 1. So I'm going to put in 01 for my start module, and that will ensure that when the show is addressed, that we start with module 01 and not 00. So I'll go ahead and hit enter on this position properties. Now you can see all the positions have shrank down, and you can also see that if we go back to the properties for any given position, that you have a start module of 01. All right, next I'd like to show you the positions window, which gives you a little bit more tabular control over position information. So down below the presets, which we looked at earlier, you have various windows that you can open. Right now we're looking at the design window, script window, and effects window. We can also pop open the positions window. Now this is a great way to look at the data that represents the firing positions in a tabular format. So first, I'd like to note that you can see that start module. So when we entered that start module into the position properties, this is where it's stored, and you can also modify it here. Now there's two other things I want to bring your attention to. One is universe and the other is section. If you're designing a show that is shot by more than one firing system, you can specify different universes for different positions to specify different firing systems. For example, you can type directly into this table. I could specify my first universe as perhaps these few positions here and another universe here. And then I can use position properties to define which firing system applies to which universe. Now over here in section, this is used when you want to have a module that shares multiple firing positions. So you could assign multiple positions to the same section, and you will end up with that would allow you to address the show in such a way where you can have two different physical modules in the design that are sharing two different physical firing positions in the design that are sharing the same module. So similarly with section, you can type in here and you can type pretty anything you want. So I can say like section 1, and I can say that applies to these positions, and then perhaps maybe section 2 down here will apply to a couple positions down here. So these are used when addressing happens. We'll get into addressing later today in our session number 3, but I definitely wanted to mention how this manifests itself in the positions window and how easy it is to work with, in a specific, in this window here, which is the easiest way to view it versus sometimes more difficult to go to position properties for each particular position. So that's a bit on configuring positions, and we covered a bit there, so I want to go ahead and move on in the interest of time to inserting effects. All right, so we talked about in the introduction I was going to demonstrate inserting effects 4 different ways. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and clear out the firing positions here, bring back to the front, and I'll just add back some default positions, 9 positions in a row, and there we go. All right, so now we have a row of firing positions similar to our default layout, and we'll go ahead and insert a couple of effects. So today I'm going to work with the generic effects collection. That's the collection that you would have by default when each time you open Finale 3D. Of course, you may also have supplier catalogs or you have your own inventory, but you will definitely have generic effects. So the first way and most basic way to insert an effect is either to drag it. I'm going to select a firing position. I'm going to lock. I should say also that I'm going to lock the positions now so that I don't accidentally drag them while I'm working on the show design. So I'll go ahead and select a firing position, and then I can click on the small icon over here in the effects window to add an item to a position. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that here, and you can see as soon as I clicked, the item appears on the timeline and in the script window. So that's the most basic way to insert an effect into the show. Similarly, if we selected a group of positions and selected an effect, we would then add that same effect at the same time to all of the selected positions. All right. So what I'd like to do now is demonstrate some of the new features, and Will touched on these yesterday in his keynote, but I want to demonstrate them again because they are really powerful and they are new, and in case you missed that part of the PTC yesterday. So let's do an example where we use the C key. So if I go up to the script window here, and I see the first option is choose effect, and it says C or enter. So C is the best key to use to bring focus to the effect window to insert an effect. So here's an example of that. I press C, and I get a small set of instructions, which I can just dismiss for this example. And then I can type the word, let's just say red. So I can go ahead and insert an effect based on doing that. Now, as soon as I start using my down arrow or my up arrow on my keyboard, without using the mouse at all, I'm able to choose from the list of searched effects, and I can add an effect to the show by hitting Control Enter. Now, I didn't have any particular position selected, so that device went over here to position 1. So it looks pretty good. Now, let's do a couple other examples. So I'll hit C again. I'm going to go ahead and hit Do Not Show This, so we won't have to see that again. And then we'll just go back to that blue willow that we found a bit earlier. and we'll go ahead and choose position 5. I'll come back to the, by hitting C, come back to the effects window, and then go down and insert a little bit larger shell, and then hit Control Enter to insert that shell, and there you have it. Now, let's say, for example, that I'd like to replace a shell instead of inserting a shell. Easy to do. You can just use your arrow keys over those items that are displayed and do Control Shift Enter, and it will replace that shell. So you can see I now just replaced the 4-inch willow with blue pistol with the 6-inch version of that shell. Similarly, you could go select this first item we added, do C, look for something, let's say pink peony, and then we can do arrow down and Control Shift Enter to replace. So just like that, you have those functions. I know a lot of users like to design in a mode where the design window is maximized on the screen. So this is the C option. The C option for inserting effects is another great a great way to do that without having to have multiple windows on your screen. Sometimes if you're working on a laptop, you don't have a lot of space. You don't want to leave the effects window open the entire time. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. So now the effects window is not visible. If I hit the C key, it brings it up, and I can go ahead and type in a search term and then use that effect. Now, I wanted to move the window, which is the only reason I clicked on it. Otherwise, you would have been able to start typing directly and no need for the mouse. So let's go ahead and search for something like gold willow, arrow down, Control Enter to insert. And because the window is not visible, when we invoke the C key, the window is automatically hidden or dismissed when the effect is inserted, allowing you to return to the visual design part of the show without any interference from those windows. So let me do one more demonstration. I'll hit the C key. You can see now, because I've positioned the effects window in the middle of the screen, comes right up back up where I had it. It has the cursor automatically highlighting the contents of the search box, which means I can immediately start typing without having to hit backspace. So for example, if I wanted a gold comet, I can immediately find my gold comets, arrow down to the one I'd like to insert, Control Enter, and it inserts on the selected firing position, just like that. So that is the second way to insert an effect. So we did the effect icon, and we did also using the C key, which is a really powerful feature, and it's brand new. So if you haven't tried it recently, be sure to check that out. All right, I want to demonstrate importing some quotas. You remember earlier we made a custom layout where we added the remaining quota column as well as the quota column. Now we'll look at inserting effects based on quotas. So let's go ahead and remove these effects. I'll just drag my mouse over to select them on the timeline, hit delete on my keyboard. So what I'm going to do next is import some quotas. So I'll go to File, choose Import, and I'll do Import Quotas. And a quotas file is simply a file that includes two columns, the part number and the quantity, which is reflected in the description here. I'll go ahead and show the file so you can see it. So I've included some part numbers from our generic effect catalog, as well as some quantities, and they're just random for this example. And now I'll go ahead, this will be the file that I'm going to import. Now this is an Excel spreadsheet at the moment. When you are ready to do the import, you want to go ahead and save your quotas file when it's ready to go. As you can do there are a few options, but you can do, my preferred option is to do a tabbed limited text file, which is right here. CSV also works just fine. So we'll go ahead and choose that. I'll just overwrite the one I made a bit earlier, and there we go. So I will go ahead and close this down, and that'll bring us back. Now here you can see the reference to the CSV file, and this dialog will give you those instructions just the way we just talked about. So we'll just hit OK. This will bring me into select file window, and I can navigate to the folder where I save those quotas, choose the file, and do open. All right, this is good news. It recognized 16 rows in the file, and it's ready to import, and there are zero invalid part numbers. So just hit continue there. All right, total rows imported 16, success. That's what we want to see. So we don't see anything right away here. Nothing seems to have changed, but that does not mean that nothing happened. It's just not visible at the moment. So when you import quotas, what happens is if you go to the per show effects collection, which is the items that are in this show, you will see those items. Now what we're seeing up here at the top are some items that we inserted earlier So I'm going to go ahead and clear those out. Those are the result of the effects that we added from the show, added to the show using the other method for inserting effects. So I'm just going to delete those to prevent any confusion. So if we started with a blank show, imported quotas, this is what we get. Now you notice the small icon here, it looks like a little triangle, and it's sort of like a construction cone or a triangle that kind of indicates, hey, warning, there's something wrong. In this case, what's wrong is that we don't have the effect definitions here. All we really have is the part numbers and the quantities. But you do see the quotas nicely appearing here in our quota column with a green color indicating there's some left, as well as the remaining quotas. And we'll see how, I'll demonstrate how this decrements as we add items to the show. Now, to get the effects to get the effect data in here, we can simply go to Effects, and then we want to go to Update Per Show Effects. What this will do is search the collections of effects available in the effects window and then offer to match those collections based on part number and update the effect specifications. So in this case, in the current window, we don't have the data, so it's searching other collections, and it's found in the other collections, it found 16 effects which match. And in this case, we know they match the generic effects collection because that's where the data came from. So I'll go ahead and hit All, and just like that, you'll see the effect data populate. So now we have our quota remaining, and all of our effect information has been populated. Now, what I'd like to do is show you some of the filtering options for quantities. It used to be in a previous release not too long ago that the only way to filter quantity was in the search box. As Will mentioned yesterday in his keynote, you can now do that very easily just by using the quantities feature here. So let me switch back to the generic effects collection, and if we scroll through, you can start to see where some of those effects appear in here. But it's like a needle in a haystack because there's thousands of items and we've only used a few. So we'll just go to all quantities, and my favorite one, which is the one I'll demonstrate right now, is used or quota greater than 0. So just by choosing that quantity filter, I'm looking at my generic effects and I'm bringing everything to the top and filtered out that I would like to add to this show. So I'll quickly go ahead and demonstrate adding a couple of these items just by clicking on the effect icons, and you'll see what's happening here is it now shows I've added each of these to the show. The quota remains the same, but the remaining quota goes down. So that's the way you add items to the show individually by scripting if you're going along, for example, in Empire Musical. But I want to demonstrate an even cooler feature, which is to import all of these based on their quota. So we'll go up to Effects, to Script, Insert Multiple Effects, and then I can choose from the drop-down list all effects by quota. This is something Mike demonstrated yesterday during his presentation on Finale inventory. So I can do quantity or fraction. I'll choose 100% of the effects, and then we'll just put them in with 1 second in between each. Go ahead and choose Enter. And there you have all the effects from the quotas inserted into the show. Now, obviously, there'd be some more work to do here in order to design that show, but this is a great way to get that started, to design kind of a bucket toss show. All right, that's the third way to insert effects. Fourth way that I'd like to demonstrate is pretty common if you're doing a Empire Musical, which is to insert empty place markers and then add effects to the place markers. So I'll go ahead and do that. So if we go up to Script and we choose Insert Empty Queue, you can see that is the I key. And it can be switched to being the spacebar key, but by default it is the I key. So we'll go ahead and hit that, and you'll see I get a new blank queue placeholder. I want to point out that there's a dot at the bottom of the bar here. It may be hard to see on your end, but that indicates that this is an empty queue. So compare that to, for example, this guy where we have the horizontal effect, horizontal duration bar, no dot at the bottom. This shows you an empty queue. So I can go ahead and we'll just play the show, and I'll tap I don't have any music, but I'll just go ahead and tap the I key, and you can see that I'm adding a few empty queues here as I go through the timeline, just like that. So I will go ahead now and select those, and add some effects to them. So it's as simple as selecting one of those empty cues and then choosing an effect from the, you can use the C key, or you can use just clicking on an effect here. To keep it simple, I'm just going to choose clicking on effect. So you can see as soon as I select an empty cue and then add an effect by clicking on the icon, you can see that the empty cue is replaced by that effect. And we still have our remaining quota that's coming down here as we script. So that's 4 ways to insert effects. What I want to do now is demonstrate a couple ways to create some simple sequences. So I'll go ahead and clear out the timeline, and I'm going to, let's see here, we'll go back to our generic effects, all quantities, and we'll find maybe a red comet. So go ahead and insert a red comet here. And one cool feature that you can do to insert more effects is you can hold your control key, and just by clicking and dragging on that, I can clone this effect to more firing positions. So you'll see as I do this, we're continuing to duplicate that effect. So I'll repeat that across there from the right to the left. And you can see those coming into there. Now you do need to drop them right in the firing position. There's a couple where I didn't get it stuck to the position, so we didn't get that effect. So just like that. Now let's take a look at a couple sequence commands. So I'll go up here to script, and we'll do sequences and make into sequence. So I'll go ahead and choose that. It's the S shortcut. And now we have quite a number of options. I'll just go ahead and specify a duration of 1 second, and that will do the sequence. Now what I would like to do, just to make it a little bit more complex, is to sort the positions. We'll leave the sorting by alphabetical order, but they'll change this from last to first, and choose enter. So now you can see we're shooting from right to left on the screen, just like that. So we'll go ahead and use another tool under the script menu, which is angles. I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a fan. So that's the F key, and oftentimes once you become proficient at scripting, you often don't rely on coming to the menus at all. Just every time you go into the menus, keep an eye out for the keyboard shortcuts, and as that repetition builds, you'll be able to go ahead and choose each one of those. So go through here, hit the F key, and bring this up. Now this is the total angle of the spread from left to right across all those positions. So I'll just go ahead and change this to say 100 degrees. So that's 50 degrees to the left and 50 degrees to the right. So there's our fan. And now if we play through it, you can see those comets are fanned out just like that. I want to go ahead and point out some timeline features. Those are really important for productivity as you're scripting. So we'll go ahead and look at a zoom. I love this feature. You can see here if we scroll out on our show, if we want to work on a very specific part of the show, we can use the mouse wheel to scroll in, but an even better way is to select those cues and then hit the plus icon. Now you can see this little magnifying glass with the plus symbol here in the upper right hand corner of the timeline allows you to zoom in to that section of the show that you've selected. So that's a really handy feature. If you click that again, it allows you to zoom out. So if we deselect that and then click, it allows you to zoom out to see the whole show. So instead of always using that mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out to try to find the section of the show you're working on, if you have a lot of cues in here, you can just select that portion and zoom in and zoom out. Another thing I want to demonstrate is setting the cue flags to different colors. So you have this group of items here. Let's put in a few more items of different sizes. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the search box, and let's switch to some items of a larger size here. I'll put in a couple 3-inch shells, and then to make the example look a little bit better, let's add a couple larger shells, like a couple 6-inch shells here. All right, perfect. Now we'll go up to show and then set cue flag color mapping, and then change this to size. Now this is a great feature. What this is going to do is there's these little flags at the top of the items here, and when we click size, you'll see the colors change to reflect the sizes of the items. So this is just another little productivity feature to allow you to choose those items very easily. which is a really handy way to filter through and look at your script. All right, so next thing I want to demonstrate is a feature that's really handy. Sometimes when there's a lot going on in the script, it's hard to get in and select a specific item. So know that you can use the right and left arrow keys to jump to the next item in your script. So here I can just click that left and right arrow, and then it'll bring me to the next item in the script, just like that. Now, oftentimes what people ask me is, okay, I can do that, but how do I get to the next time increment versus the next item increment? And there's a feature for that as well. You hold Shift on your keyboard, and then you can go instead to the next item, the next time increment. So let me adjust the Snap to resolution, which is another great productivity feature here. It also can be used to match with the firing system that you're using. So for example, right now the timeline is representing 1/1000th of a second. We can switch that to represent 100th of a second or 1/10th of a second. It can also work in frames. What I'm going to do is switch it to 1/10th of a second, just so you can really see when I'm going through with the arrow keys. So we'll change that here. I'm going to go ahead and move the playhead over here to an open area. And you see if I hit the arrow key, it jumps to the next cue on the timeline. But if I hold Shift, you can see right now we're at 29.3 seconds. If I hit Shift and then press the arrow key, 29.5, 29.6, 29.7. So that's really handy if you want to be very precise about where you're moving that playhead to be able to go through there and find a location to put in the cues. All right, I'm looking at the time here. We've got about 6 minutes left in the session, so I'm going to try to fit a few more things in and then also leave a couple minutes for a Q&A before we wrap up. One of the things I'd like to touch on last is I've been accused of being a person that has an Excel spreadsheet for everything. So I want to demonstrate the power of copying and pasting things in Finale. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a little bit of copying and pasting, and also copying and pasting in and out of the software. So for example, I'll go to the position here in the script, and you can see the positions are represented. They're also kind of color-coded, and I can go ahead and let's say that instead of having this span of comets spread across all the positions, I just like them at the center position. One easy way to do that is to find that position where you'd like them to be. So that's position number 5. Control-C on the keyboard, that's copy. Select the ones you'd like to change, and then Control-V to paste. So now I've really quickly and easily used copy and paste as a productivity feature to move those effects all to a single firing position. So next what I'd like to do is demonstrate copying and pasting in and out of Finale. So I'm going to open a blank Excel spreadsheet here. Just move that out of the way for a moment, and I'm going to demonstrate a couple things that you can do that are very cool. So if you need for any reason to copy a single cell, I'm going to go ahead and change this default here. This is the default. This is a user setting for the click action for the effects window. So this controls what happens when you click on a row in the effects window. At the moment, you can see right now it's set to select row. So when I click on any cell, I'm selecting that entire row in the effects window, which is the upper right-hand window on the screen. If I change it to select cell, I can select an individual cell. And now I can copy, I can do Control-C, and then I can bring in my Excel spreadsheet and I can paste that value out. I can also select a range of cells, do Control-C, and paste those out just like that. And this can be really handy to work in Excel to bring data in and out into Finale 3D. I can also do a Control-A on my keyboard to select all, a Control-C, and then paste all of that data into Excel. So I'll go ahead and delete these contents to do that here real quick. And then you can see I've got all of those effects pasted in. I can manipulate that data or work with it in any way that I need, and then I can paste it right back in to make it really easy. And if you're accustomed to spending hours or a long time getting ready to design a show, that can be a really efficient way to bring data into Finale 3D in a really efficient manner. So that's all I have to show for this session on productivity features. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that we went pretty fast there, and I know that there was a lot covered in a really short period of time. There's so many productivity features. it's hard to show them all. I don't see any open questions, so it looks like those have been answered, but I'll go ahead and bring in Will Harvey if he has anything he'd like to add, or any of other team members that we'd like to promote up. We have just a couple minutes left here.
No, thanks, Drew, for walking through, well, I should say running through all of those features in such a short time. We were answering questions as quickly as our fingers could type while you were talking, so there was some serious multitasking.
Yeah, my apologies for going a little bit quick there. Sometimes it's hard to tell how much you can get through in one period of time, but I hope everyone enjoyed and found that useful. So,
Drew, I think this is a good point to mention that you're recording this session, and you'll release the recording so people can refer back to it and can pull out the sections that they want to get a refresher on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the recording yesterday was quite successful. It looks pretty good. We'll be able to post that up on YouTube, and then today at the end of the PTC, we'll go ahead and, assuming the recording comes out well, we'll be able to carve that up into the individual sessions and post those as well. Even if the recording is a complete failure, we'll definitely continue to add videos to our YouTube channel, and so everyone will be able to get these kinds of tips and tricks as we populate more videos either way. So, yep, definitely.
Drew, for those people who are just joining today, can you show us on the website where the videos can be found?
Yeah, definitely. Let me bring up here. Go ahead and exit the presentation real quick to bring up a new browser tab. If we go to the Finale 3D homepage, you can see here under the top menu bar, you have videos, and then at the very top is the Finale 3D video tutorials. We have some different playlists. All of these link to YouTube. We also have the master class by Dirk Enders. Those are some great videos in there as well. But I'll just go to the Finale 3D YouTube channel really quickly here as an example. So we just click on that, and that takes us directly to YouTube, and you will see video playing automatically. I'll just pause that. You can see the URL is just youtube.com/Finale3D. Pretty easy to remember. And we have quite a number of videos here to help get you started, and even on some advanced topics. And we will also be adding lots of new videos over time. So there's that. All right, so I think we're pretty much wrapped up with the first session. We'll take a short break, and we'll be back momentarily for session 2.